Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the village of Coombe Bissett in Wiltshire. It's located about 3 miles southwest of the city of Salisbury. We're going to be walking a roughly 5-mile circular route, starting off with a quick look round the village before heading south up to the Coombe Bissett Down Nature Reserve, and then we'll go as far as the ancient Grim's Ditch on the Hampshire border before heading west to join the old Blandford road track back to the village. And we should get to see some stunning chalkland scenery along the way. Now, I'm filming in the middle of January. As you can see, we're well wrapped up. Logan's got his thick coat on and I've got about 3 layers because it's bitterly cold. It's about 0 degrees, -1 degrees. It might get up to the balmy temperature of 2 degrees later on, but the sun is out, blue skies, should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. We'll start off the walk with a little wander through the village, and the best place to start is the pub, which is just behind me here, and it's the Fox Goose. Now, I can't tell you too much about it other than it won Rural Pub of the Year, an award given by the Salisbury and South Wiltshire branch of CAMERA in 2023. It does show on an 1886 map, and I expect it'll be our final destination. And just south of the pub, the old post office. And I've actually got a lovely old photograph of it when it was indeed still working as a post office. And just opposite from the pub, I think it's the old mill, recorded as Jarvis's Farm. I think that's how you pronounce it, on a 1901 map. I think it's called the Old Mill House now, and it's got early 18th century origins. I've just noticed there, look, by the side of the road, an old milestone, and sure enough that appears on one of the very old maps. Great that it's still here. Well, we're going to start heading southwards, and I've just crossed the River Ebble, and there's a gorgeous little packhorse bridge which I've gone over, and then just over on the left, that's the bridge with the road, the busy A354 that goes from Salisbury through to Blandford. But the river's very much in full flow today, that's for sure. In fact, if I pan round, you can see it heading, it's rises not too far from here, well, Alvidston near Ebbsbourne Wake, which is to the west of here, and it flows eastwards to join the River Avon, about 2.5 miles southeast of Salisbury, and it's named after the Saxon chief Ebble. Now this, I believe, is known locally as the Plague Stone, but there's some debate as to what it actually is. I say suggestions are that it is a plague stone. Folk with the plague would have paid for food by putting coins in a pool of vinegar on top to disinfect the coins. But usually those would be outside the village, I would have thought. Anyway, it may well be the base of a market or preaching cross, and I see that the house opposite is actually called Cross Stone, or it might even be a mounting block. And this is the Church of St Michael's and All Angels, and it consists of a nave, chancel, north and south aisle, a north transept, south tower and a south porch. The oldest part is the south aisle, which is from the 12th century. The chancel was built in the 13th century and the tower added in the 14th century. The nave and north transept date from the 15th century, and there was a big restoration in 1845. Interesting, just looking in front of it, look, you've got, parish pound. Now if you look at a very old map, 1901 map, you'll see that there was once an animal pound here in this exact location, and it's great to see it's still here. And this is where any stray animals would have been held pending either being reclaimed by their owners or otherwise being sold at market. Okay, we'll have a little look inside the church, but before we do, I need to tell you something a bit about my camera. I've invested in a new one, an Insta360 Ace Pro. and apparently it's incredibly good in low light. So let's test it out inside the church. Okay, in we go. A terrific wooden door with studs. Just on the right hand side here, the organ, or one side of it, and there's the font just on the left there as you come in. It's one of those churches that it looks a lot bigger inside than it does outside, if you know what I mean. A magnificent pulpit there. Love the little staircase that goes up into it. Gently panning around. And there's the other side of the organ and beautiful decorations. And then heading towards the chancel. Quite stunning stained glass window above the altar, looking quite resplendent in the morning sunshine. And just in the chancel on the right hand side, I'm guessing that must be the parish chest. And then over on the left hand side, what looks like a lump of stone. In fact, there's a little plaque on the side tells us it's a medieval altar slab. Amazing. Well, we're continuing sort of easterly, I suppose you'd say, through the village, and there's the little post office and stores. Oh, I love this old wall here with the thatched top. And as you can see, they've had a bit of flooding here. Had a lot of rain recently, I think it's fair to say. And this is the old school, built in 1845. I think it's a private residence now, because they built another school in the village to replace it in the 1960s. And look, yes, there's the old bell at the top. Well, this is the lane that we're going to follow heading south that heads us past the village hall. And I came across a very old photograph on the internet showing this exact spot. I think it was some army motorcyclists, I'm not sure. It hasn't changed too much over the years. Oh, what an enchanting scene. The River Ebble again, with a little bridge over it and a ford alongside it. Well, you could almost sit and paint a picture of this, couldn't you? Well, before we leave the village and head south, let me tell you a little bit of the history of Coombe Bissett itself. Well, it was recorded as Cum or Coombe in the Domesday Book. It was a royal manor basically owned by King William, I guess. Previous to 1066, it was owned by the Countess Githa, wife of Godwin, the Earl of Wessex. She was the mother of King Harold, I think. Now in 1160, this manor, as well as a couple of other local manors, was granted by Henry II to his steward, Manasseh Bissett. And in 1241, John Bissett, his grandson, died and his estates passed to his three daughters. Two of them were given half each of the manor here. One half eventually was owned by Winchester College and the other half eventually owned by the estates of the Earl of Radnor. But from the 12th century onwards, bits of it from both half were sold off. This is just on the southern tip of the village hall, which was built fairly recently, sometime in the 1970s, I believe. Oh, wow. How about this for a view? Of course, with the sun being so low this time of year, really brings out the shadows, and so you can make out the contours and the shapes in the land. Right, we're shortly going to go into a nature reserve, I believe. Ah, here we go. Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, Coombe Bissett Down. So hopefully you can see this because the sun's directly behind the board. So we're here and we're just going to follow the side of the area heading uphill. We should get some cracking views as well. Whew. A little uphill bit, so a little pit stop to get a breather and also to take in some of these views, which really are quite spectacular from up here. You can probably see behind me, but just update on the route. You can see the side of the field where we've come up, and so this is looking over, I suppose, to the north, and there's the outskirts of Coombe Bissett, and just panning round. And we will eventually be coming back down along the other side of that ridge. It really is, I say, quite breathtaking. Oh, I tell you, I'm loving this walk. Yeah, I nearly didn't come. It was about -3 when I left home this morning, and I was umming and ahhing about it, but I'm so glad that I did. Oh, it's got to be about freezing now. Positively tropical. I should point out that in this sort of wildlife reserve area, there are plenty of signs asking you to keep your dog on a lead. But hopefully later on the walk there'll be plenty of sections where Logan can go off lead. Well, we're making good progress. We've left the nature reserve and just passed a barn. I think it's called Tottens Down Barn, something like that. But we're continuing to head southwards to a place called Grim's Ditch. Well, this is as far south as we're going to go on the route. We've actually come up to the Hampshire border. In fact, the post behind me has got a Hampshire County Council footpath sign on it. So at this point, we now start heading westwards along the side of Grim's Ditch. There should be a boundary stone around here somewhere, according to a 1902 map. Can I find it? Nope. I can't even find Grim's Ditch. It doesn't look obvious. It might become a bit clearer later on, but let me tell you a little bit about it anyway. Now, the ditch that is here is one of a number of sections of it. Basically, it's a series of bank and ditch features stretching something like 14.5 miles, and some bits overshoot others, and there are quite a few gaps. But this section here is 2.6 kilometres long, and the bank's about 1 metre high, with a ditch on the southern side which is between 1.5 and 3 metres wide and about, well, just over 1 metre deep. Now, the experts aren't 100% sure what it was for. They're pretty sure it wasn't defensive, though. Might have been just some sort of boundary feature, or possibly some form of stock control. but whatever it was sort of established round about the Bronze Age. Well, we're finished heading west. We passed Greenacres Farm and a minor road and then crossed the A354 again. And now we're heading northwards on the homeward leg back to Coombe Bissett. And we're just about to join a dead straight track, an old ancient road that's pretty straight and should be downhill all the way. Well, you never know what you're going to come across on a walk, do you? Just as I'm making my way along this old track, there's a little, well, it looks like an airstrip. And look, you can see there's an aeroplane just about to take off. It's actually, well, they call it Coombe Bissett Airstrip. I believe they train pilots to fly small micro-light aircraft here. And indeed, I did see something buzzing about in the sky earlier on, so well, it looks like we're going to get to see one take off. Gosh, it took off within a matter of seconds. Brilliant. We certainly get some terrific views on the homeward leg heading north. I can just about make out in the distance the spire of Salisbury Cathedral, the tallest spire in England. Just before we drop down into Coombe Bissett, just a final look at some of these views looking to the north and the west. I mean, on a beautiful sunny winter's afternoon, hardly a cloud in the sky. It's difficult, as I often say, to put these pictures into words. Well folks, we've made it back to the Fox and Goose at Coombe Bissett. I'm pleased to say it's open all day, which means I can pay a visit purely for research purposes to quality test their Doom Bar. Yeah, thumbs up from me. And it's been that sort of day. Tuck into some hot soup. And of course it's tradition, crisp time. Well, we hope you enjoyed the walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Right, this looks absolutely divine. Oh yes.